I thought I was safe at my friend's place. Until his mom started asking questions. The night I ran away from home, I thought I had finally found somewhere the world couldn't reach me. My backpack was half filled, my heart was completely heavy, and my silence was louder than the storm that followed me through the streets. When my best friend opened his door and hugged me without questions, I felt, maybe for the first time in months, that the weight on my chest could loosen just a little. I believed I was safe, hidden away in the spare guest room of his warm house, wrapped in borrowed blankets and fading hope. But safety has a strange way of uncovering the secrets we try to bury, and mine began unraveling the moment his mother stepped into the room the next morning, eyes gentle but sharp, like someone who had learned to read pain long before I ever knew how to hide it. I didn't know it then, but her questions were the beginning of everything I needed, and everything I wasn't prepared to face. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us we are never truly alone, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support keeps these stories alive. I hadn't intended to stay more than a night. In my mind, I just needed a place where the walls didn't echo with criticism, where sighs weren't heavier than footsteps, where every mistake I made wasn't treated like a stain that could never wash out. My parents loved me in a way that felt conditional, measured by expectations I could never fully meet. When the pressure in my house reached its limit, shouting behind closed doors, slammed cupboards, silent dinners, I packed what I could quietly, waiting for the moment the hallway light switched off. The air outside was cold enough to make me shiver, but it felt warmer than the silence I left behind. My friend's house was only a few blocks away, and even though my steps felt shaky, each one felt like I was reclaiming something small inside myself. His mother was everything mine wasn't, soft-spoken, observant, present. She tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking, and something about the way she looked at people made them feel seen even when they wanted to disappear. When she first walked into the guest room that morning, sunlight caught the dust in the air like tiny floating sparks, and I pretended to still be asleep. I wasn't ready to answer questions, not about where I came from, not about why I left, not about why my hands trembled even under the heavy blanket. But pretending didn't protect me for long. She sat gently on the edge of the bed, just close enough that I could feel her presence without feeling trapped. She asked if I was hungry. I nodded. She asked if I wanted pancakes or eggs, and even that small choice made my throat tighten, because in my house I never got to choose, everything was already decided for me. Breakfast that morning felt unreal. My friend laughed at something online, and for the first time in days I let my lips curl upward. His mom slid a plate in front of me, the pancakes shaped into a loose heart not on purpose, but with a kind of warmth that felt accidental yet comforting. She didn't ask anything then. Not yet. She waited until I finished eating, until my shoulders relaxed just enough that the tension began slipping through the cracks of my silence. I noticed her watching, not judging, just paying attention. There is a difference, and I could feel it. The first question came gently, but it still made my pulse quicken. She asked if things at home were okay. Not what happened, not why are you here, but simply, are you okay? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to pretend everything was fine. But my chest was hollow, my eyes stung, and my words felt like broken glass. I shrugged instead, and she didn't push. I thought I was safe because she didn't pry, but the truth was that safety wasn't silence, it was being given the space to speak when you were ready. And I didn't realize how ready I truly was until she placed her hand over mine hours later, in a kitchen that smelled of comfort and cinnamon, and asked again, not for answers this time, but for honesty. Over the next few days, time stretched differently. My friend and I spent hours watching movies, playing games, laughing like we were younger than we truly were. But in the silent moments, the ones between laughter and nightfall, my mind drifted back to the house I left behind. I wondered if my parents noticed I was gone, or if they were relieved by the sudden quiet. Guilt tangled with hurt inside me, knotting so tightly I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. At night, lying in the guest room, I sometimes woke with my heart racing, as if footsteps were approaching the door to drag me back home. And every morning, his mom gently knocked before entering, giving me a choice to open the door myself. That small act of respect made me feel more human than I had in months. On the fourth day, she asked again, her voice steady but warm, if something had happened that made me leave. I sat at the dining table, light pouring through the window onto my hands, and the words began spilling before I could stop them. I told her about the constant pressure, the disappointment I kept causing without trying, the feeling that I was never enough, never loud enough, never calm enough, never good enough. I told her about hiding report cards, about crying into my pillow so quietly the tears soaked without sound. I told her about the moment I slipped out the door and how freeing it felt, but also how terrifying. I expected judgment. I expected lectures. Instead, she listened, not with pity, but with empathy that filled her expression like warmth fills a room in winter. She didn't promise everything would magically get better. She didn't tell me my parents were wrong or right. She told me my feelings mattered, that running away didn't make me weak, that surviving wasn't the same as living. And in that moment, something fragile inside me cracked, not in a way that hurt, but in a way that let light in. I cried silently, tears streaming without sobs, because crying loudly was something I didn't know how to do anymore. She placed a tissue by my hand and let me cry without rushing me to stop. I realized then that healing didn't always come from answers, it often came from being allowed to break openly. The days passed, and I slowly began to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time, clarity. It wasn't that my problems disappeared, but for the first time I could see them without drowning in them. My friend's mom asked if I wanted her help in talking to my parents. The question terrified me. Part of me wanted to disappear forever, to stay hidden where no disappointment could follow. But another part, small, still trembling, wanted closure, wanted understanding, wanted the chance to be heard without being dismissed. And so, with her steady presence beside me, I agreed. The ride to my house felt like an eternity. My hands were cold, my breath shallow, my thoughts spinning. When we arrived, the house looked smaller than I remembered, like the walls had shrunk while I grew in ways I couldn't see. Standing at the door, waiting for it to open, I felt like a child again, afraid, unsure, but not alone this time. When my parents saw me, their surprise was immediate, followed by a flood of emotions I couldn't decipher. But my friend's mom spoke gently, guiding the conversation with compassion, not accusing, not confronting, just helping them understand what I couldn't express alone. For the first time, my parents listened. Maybe because someone else was there, maybe because they finally saw the weight I carried, maybe because losing me for even a few days made them see what silence had cost us all. They didn't apologize perfectly. They didn't change instantly. But they tried, and trying was something I hadn't seen in a long time. That night, after returning to my friend's house to gather my things, his mom told me I was brave, not for running away, not for coming back, but for allowing myself to be seen. I returned home cautiously, carrying new boundaries and a quieter strength. The change was slow, measured in evenings spent actually talking instead of retreating, in meals shared without tension, in moments of softness that didn't feel performative. Some days were still heavy, and I still felt like I was learning how to exist without shrinking. But I held on to what I learned, that safety wasn't escape, it was understanding, connection, and the courage to be honest even when it hurt. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps more people find the stories they might desperately need to hear. Before I end, I have one special request. Comment below one word that describes how this story made you feel. In the end, I realized I wasn't looking for a place to hide, I was looking for a place to be understood. And sometimes, the questions we fear most are the ones that finally let us breathe.